You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, the Crawford County Jail upgrades its security system with 40 new cameras.
A pre-sunrise shot over the 4 states with temperatures below the freezing mark. But wait, it's a 7-day forecast that's challenging record highs. And they told us it was the beginning of winter.
Also, we've got an update on a story concerning a DC elementary school and a controversial lesson plan regarding the Holocaust. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. The Crawford County Jail has added some new eyes. Officials have added cameras to the facilities. The cameras are operated and positioned in such a way to prevent blind spots, helping to ensure security for inmates and jail staff. Cameras also allow jailers to spot potential mechanical issues before they become worse.
It's just one of those things that it keeps the staff safe. It keeps the inmates safe. We've had a couple of things where a couple of our staff members have been assaulted, and a couple of times those have happened in kind of blind spots. We've also had things happen in the cells where inmates may have been attacked, or there may be some other thing going on that they're not supposed to be doing.
The jail added around 40 cameras. 14 months after the first sale of medical marijuana in Missouri, the state has reached a milestone. The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services reports dispensaries in the state have sold $200 million in product. Missouri has more than 158,000 qualified medical marijuana patients and 3,200 caregivers. With Christmas and other holidays approaching, a lot of people are expected to travel in the next few weeks. But the Omicron variant of COVID-19 is raising concern for health officials and locals in Southeast Kansas. To ensure residents are safe for their holiday visits, Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas on Tuesday handed out at-home tests in Pittsburgh.
We have 2 different kinds. One kind which does not require a smartphone. It's a 2-test kit that you can test yourself 24 to 36 hours apart. The second one that does require a smartphone, those were provided to us through KU. We're working with them on a grant, and that does require an app to be downloaded.
Results for both tests can be expected in as little as 15 minutes. Well, during this holiday season, we highlight the importance of food banks and food pantries and the thousands of families who depend on them. Food pantry visits are up 30% since the start of the pandemic. About 42 million Americans are experiencing food insecurity. Jamie Yukas has more.
Curry chicken chow mein. Nice.
Once or twice a month, Bridget and Kevin Littlefield visit the Open Door Pantry food shelf in Eagan, Minnesota.
Does a box of cereal go pretty far?
Hey. Bridget works full-time in a restaurant, and Kevin is semi-retired. They have 2 teenage daughters and a niece at home.
You know, sometimes you need it, you know what I mean, just to get you through to the next payday.
We have about 8 to 10 million pounds of food in this warehouse.
Million with an M.
Yes.
Allison O'Toole is the CEO of Second Harvest Heartland, one of the largest food banks in the country.
Out of here, we can get 3 things.
Second Harvest Heartland supplies Open Door Pantry, where the Littlefields go.
When you look at people like the Littlefields, I think one of the things that strikes me is that the mother works for a restaurant. She works in food service, and she needs to be able to still feed her family and can't.
That's right.
Are there dozens, hundreds of families like that?
Thousands of families like that.
Inflation isn't helping the situation. According to the USDA, grocery prices were 5.4% higher last October than they were the year before, and the price of meat has increased double digits. O'Toole says it's leaving families strapped, and it's also impacting food banks who source their own food.
I think there's this idea that because you're a charity, you must be able to source for free.
We don't. We've purchased more food than ever before.
Anything out of here you want?
Back at the Open Door Food Pantry, the Littlefields are grateful.
You should never feel embarrassed or ashamed. You know, if you need help, come get it, you know, and then when you're able to, you give back, kind of like what we do.
Because at times, Littlefield says we all need that little extra help.
You guys take care.
Thank you, sweetie.
Stay warm out there.
Yeah.
Jamie Yukas, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
A lot of 4-staters rely on food banks, and this time of year budgets can be especially stressed. That's why Fox 14 is conducting its 18th annual Feed the 4 States food drive. We're collecting non-perishable food items for area food pantries like Crosslines and the Wesley House. during the season of high demand. You can also make a monetary donation online at KOAMnewsnow.com/feed. The food drive will continue until December 31st. Claire Henderson, a mother of 3, has been creating Christmas pranks for her kids for years. Now this year couldn't be different. Henderson, from the Greater Manchester region of England, changes rooms into new worlds by inventing activities for elves for her children. The video shows some of this year's ideas, such as filling a bath with popcorn and turning a living room's floor into lava by covering it in red cellophane. Henderson also wrapped her entire car in cling film. Oh my goodness. She seems to enjoy the activity as much as her kids do, sharing the scenes on social media.
Wait, so she pulls the prank on herself that we used to pull when we were in high school?
Like we would.
By the way, high school kids watching this, Michael did not just condone cling wrapping anybody's car. I want to make that abundantly clear.
Maybe she started doing this in high school and just never wanted to stop.
But why'd she cling wrap her own?
Because the elf did it.
She does it for, okay, she's doing pranks, but it's really the elf doing the pranks. We just spoiled it for all the kids that are watching right now. I am so sorry. So sorry, parents.
I didn't do anything.
Basically, let me reword this story. Take back everything I just said.
Okay.
What is really happening in this story?
Hang on. Ready?
The elf,
and scene.
The elf on the shelf,
right,
and his counterpart in these videos are the ones doing the cling wrapping. They do this while you're sleeping, kids. They are cling wrapping mom's car. They are destroying her kitchen. They are making lava all over the floor. Like, these elves are very mischievous, and they're doing it all themselves without the support of mom.
I think what mom needs to do is write a letter to the elves and say, hey, next time I need you to cling wrap my neighbor's car. Kids don't cling wrap other people's cars.
Pretty sure Michael is just allowing anyone to come by and cling wrap his car.
I'd actually like, you know me, I'd laugh. Don't give Caitlin and her friends any ideas.
Park that back, guys.
Say
okay,
what?
so if Michael isn't here tomorrow, it's because he's still trying to unwrap his car.
I know who you kids are. I know you by, I know your parents, and I know your names. Don't do it. Don't even think about it. Don't give them that
It's
idea.
Christmas break. Do you think they're awake right now?
Folks, it's going to be like, hold on, don't go the way. It's going to be like in the 50s and sunny. We're going to get there, but I got to tell you this story. I get a phone call from a 16-year-old yesterday, pleading, Dad, where are you? Dad, where are you? To which point I respond to her. I said, Caitlin, I have this thing called the KOAM News at Noon that I have to, that like responsibly, I'm at work. Caitlin texts me back and she said, oh yeah, I forgot, I'm the only one on vacation.
Right? I got a similar call / voicemail at 12:05 yesterday.
Yeah, you say, Mom, where are you? Mom, where are you?
My 15-year-old, yes.
Kiddos, you know we love you. We're still waiting to get up to the freezing mark. 29 is where we stand right now in Joplin. Monette is at 32 along with Neodesha, and we've seen Neosho. Neosho's been a curious one. It's bounced back and forth between 31 and 33 degrees. We've got a clean Skywatch storm tracker, nary a cloud in the sky, and that's going to actually let us warm up into the 50s here later on this afternoon. No travel concerns throughout the entire Midwest. If you are going to be in a car anytime for, say the next 4 or 5 days, you are in luck because not only will the temperatures cooperate, the sun will cooperate. There is no severe weather in sight. As a matter of fact, well, this being our first full day of winter, and we're still talking about possibly breaking record highs for Christmas Eve.
There you go. Got to do it. Up next, experts warn of a 1-2 punch from COVID and the flu this holiday season and why this year's flu vaccine may not be as effective. And later, we'll meet a woman in Williamsburg, Virginia, who just moved into a 3D printed Habitat for Humanity house, the first in the U.S. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Snow is
Health experts are warning about a double whammy of COVID-19 and influenza this winter. Adding to those concerns, research showing the seasonal flu vaccines do not match one of the main strains currently circulating. Jen Sullivan has a closer look.
A vaccine mismatch, as some health experts warn of a severe flu season.
This year, the kind that's going to be predominant is the one that causes the most severe flu. And so probably it's going to be a bad year for influenza.
In a preliminary study, researchers say one of the main circulating influenza viruses has changed, and the current vaccines against it no longer match it well. The flu vaccines for this season are not as effective at beating a particular mutation of the virus in the strain known as H3N2. And while you can still be protected from getting sick if you get the shot, this year's flu shot may not be as effective at preventing infection from this mutation because the vaccines don't seem to generate the right antibodies against the mutated versions circulating.
I think we're never going to get a 100% match on the strain and the vaccine, but regardless, I think that given what's going on with COVID, it's really important to get the influenza vaccine.
Health experts say vaccinations are still vital as influenza vaccines protect against 4 different strains of the flu, and they are still likely to prevent severe illness, hospitalizations, and deaths, even in years where there are mismatches.
But even preventing half of influenza saves thousands and thousands of lives every year.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Jen Sullivan.
According to the CDC, influenza kills anywhere between 12,000 and 52,000 people a year, depending on the flu season. Puts as many as 700,000 people into the hospital. Well, sitting in the aisle seat on public transportation could put you at greater risk of catching a virus from someone else on board. Researchers at the American Institute of Physics developed a model that showed droplets from someone in a window seat rose more and were less likely to invade the space of other passengers. But droplets from the middle seat contaminated aisle passengers more. Reducing frailty in older adults could help prevent dementia. A new study published in the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry find that a healthy lifestyle may reduce the risk of dementia, even for those with a genetic predisposition for the disease. Researchers say this finding will help older adults look for ways to stay fit and reduce their risk. Life expectancy in the U.S. dropped to 77 years in 2020, 1.8 years shorter than the year before. The annual report from the CDC also found that COVID-19 was the 3rd leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer. Infant mortality also dropped by 2.9% in 2020 to a record low. A perfectly preserved baby dinosaur is discovered curled up inside its egg. The 70-million-year-old fossil preserved the embryonic skeleton of a bird-like dinosaur. It's been nicknamed Baby Yingling after the name of the Chinese museum which houses the fossil. Experts say baby dinosaur bones are small and fragile and are only very rarely preserved as fossils. This makes it a very lucky find. The egg is around 7 inches long. The dinosaur was estimated to be 11 inches long from head to tail. Researchers believe as an adult, had it lived, it would have been about 2 to 3 meters long.
So about 6 to 9 feet long. I'm thinking a 7-inch egg. That is huge.
Yeah, it is.
Did they say where that was found?
I
know it's in a museum in China, so it
I don't think I ever read where it was found, though.
That's amazing. That video, that is amazing video as well, to give you an idea about how it was probably curled up in there. That's really neat. 7-inch egg, though. I mean, my goodness.
Well, I mean, it was going to be like 3 meters long as an adult.
Yeah, 6 to 9 feet long.
So, I mean, that's pretty.
That is something else.
Pretty big bird once it grows up.
Let's take a live look outside of Television City. We're still 24 minutes away from official sunrise over Joplin. That'll take place at 7:29 this morning. Our temperatures, during the mornings, while we've been below the freezing mark, if you look at our average high for this time of year, it's not abnormal one bit. We should bottom out around 27 degrees. Yeah, we've been a little bit cooler than that. We're up to 29 right now in Joplin. Not a big differential between our temperatures and our wind chills. We're slowly creeping up to 32 there. We see Neodesha and Parsons hitting it, 31 in Parsons and Neosho, 28 in Fort Scott and Miami. With the wind really quickly shifting. Hasn't been too blustery as of yet. But if we look out here to our left, you see that fine line right there that runs from about Ponca City just to the west of Wichita, where the wind has completed its shift in from the south, and that's exactly what ours are going to do, kind of sweep in from the east right now, but eventually, and there you go, right on the western edge of southeast Kansas, we're starting to see a little bit of that south wind take effect. And you'll notice a huge difference with that south wind because look at our 24-hour temperature change. You've got the double digits in Parsons. You've got anywhere from, say, 6 to 7 degrees warmer where the south wind now blows in compared to southwest Missouri and northeast Oklahoma where it's still mainly a dominant easterly breeze. And that's just about where we were yesterday. And so once the wind makes its complete shift, we'll all see a nice little bump up temperature-wise and make it up into the mid to high 50s with mostly sunny skies. Cloud cover does build overnight, but look at those overnight lows. What a difference that makes. This will be the last time we talk about freezing temperatures until we get past Christmas Day. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
There's a whole...
This morning, we'd like to take a closer look at a story that we brought you just yesterday. It was a Holocaust lesson that third graders certainly did not expect when they went to school last week. And now, a school librarian facing harsh criticism and under investigation for her controversial and unapproved lesson plan. Delia Gonglaves has the story.
A cloud of controversy looms over this Capital Cluster elementary school. Watkins School librarian is now on paid leave, accused of leading a third grade classroom in a reenactment of the Holocaust Friday. According to the Washington Post, students were asked to simulate historical moments in the Holocaust, including digging mass graves and pretending to be shooting victims. The principal sent home this letter Friday telling parents students should never be tasked with acting out an atrocity. And the librarian allegedly used hate speech, calling her behavior unacceptable and not tolerated at our school.
As a Jew, I was particularly offended, and as someone who has friends and relatives who are Holocaust survivors, I think it's really important to memorialize the events of history and never to forget them, as we say, but this is not the proper way to do it.
I've just seen so much more in terms of diversity here than I've experienced, so it was definitely a shock to see that. It looks like leadership is taking it seriously.
It sounds pretty deep if they were pretending to die and things like that. I think it's horrible. It was a horrible decision, and I'm just sorry that it happened.
It was horrifying. You know, even I sit down and try to process what went on back then, and I just can't wrap my mind around it.
Numerous parents tell WUSA 9 the librarian is Kimberly Ann Jerkowski of Bowie. According to the New York Times, Jerkowski's teaching license was suspended in New Jersey back in 2017 after she was found guilty of defrauding her old school system in a tutoring scam. DC's chancellor says investigators are now looking into how the librarian was hired in the district and if she underwent the required background check.
We've also tasked our team to review the hiring process to ensure that our hiring protocols will follow as relates to screening as well.
The teachers union had this to say: let's make no mistake, these are serious charges. Everyone has a right to due process, and that is why the WTU supports a thorough investigation.
So what happened in the classroom was reported to the DC Public Schools Comprehensive Alternative Resolution and Equity Team. A school district spokesperson also said it was not part of an approved lesson plan. The third grade class, well, they met with the school's mental health response team after it happened. We'll be back with this morning's four-state hero right after this.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Wayne Blackford of rural Joplin, who served in the U.S. Air Force in 1970 and 71. Staff Sergeant Wayne Blackford, we thank you. Today's four-state hero. On the first day of winter, a Virginia woman officially took ownership of her new home in Williamsburg. Now, this home is something special. It's the first ever completed 3D printed house in the U.S. made by Habitat for Humanity. Crews broke ground in July on the 1,200 square foot three-bedroom house, and a ribbon cutting was held yesterday. Angela Boham has the story.
The finishing touches are made.
To have a home right before Christmas is really, really exciting.
And though it's brand new, this Williamsburg home from Habitat for Humanity is historic in a way and welcoming a lot of fanfare.
The history that we're making today is that this is the first ever owner-occupied 3D printed home in the world.
Now, if you're wondering just how a 3D printed home is made, check out this time-lapse video. All that concrete, now a charming home.
Looking at this home, you would never know that it's 3D printed until you get right up against it.
And while it's memorable for the entire community, it's also nostalgic for the homeowner.
My great-grandmother, Daisy Shankfield, she had a concrete home, and I grew up in that concrete home. It's just really exciting that I could carry on a tradition, something that my great-grandmother had.
And thanks to Habitat for Humanity, Stringfield can make affordable payments.
This is my son's room.
Providing a safe, comfortable place for her and her son.
I just wanted something totally different, and this is different.
Ultimately, this is the American dream. This is home ownership, and this is something that we know April's wanted to achieve for a long time.
Family and friends can come and share that moment with me.
All just in time to be home for the holidays.
Aw, thank you so much. I'm going to add it to the tree.
Sweet. We'll be back with another look at your forecast. But first,
the 4 states' most watched news starts now.
welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:30. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Crawford County Jail has added some new eyes. Officials have added cameras to the facility. Cameras are operated and positioned in such a way to prevent blind spots, helping to ensure security for inmates and jail staff. Cameras also allow jailers to spot potential mechanical issues before they become worse.
It's just one of those things that it keeps the staff safe. It keeps the inmates safe. We've had a couple of things where a couple of our staff members have been assaulted, and a couple of times those have happened in kind of blind spots. We've also had things happen in the cells where inmates may have been attacked, or there may be some other thing going on that they're not supposed to be doing.
The jail added around 40 cameras. 14 months after the first sale of medical marijuana in Missouri, the state has reached a milestone. The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services reports dispensaries in the state have sold $200 million in product. Missouri has more than 158,000 qualified medical marijuana patients and 3,200 caregivers. A lot of people are expected to travel as we get closer to Christmas, and now with a new variant of COVID-19 quickly becoming the dominant strain, Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas is providing a way for people to quickly find out whether they have COVID. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky has how the at-home tests work and how they can help keep the community safe.
Cooper Neal is like many that will be gathering with family over the holidays. Although with COVID-19 still a concern, Neal says he wants to make sure he can celebrate safely, especially as an educator in the community.
I think returning from Thanksgiving break gave us an indicator that, people are gathering, and this is still a real issue in our community and our nation.
It's why he was one of many at the Pittsburgh Public Library picking up an at-home COVID-19 test.
I'm mostly concerned about going back to school and being safe, but yeah, I want to be extra safe for fam and friends this year.
Neal wasn't the only person lining up for an at-home test. People were lining up throughout the library for a number of reasons, from recent exposures to playing it safe right before the holidays.
If your test comes back negative, you're in the clear, but if you get a positive result, your next step should be either seeing your healthcare provider or taking a visit to your local health department.
Testing is still very important, especially if you're going to be with family over the holidays. And then this is a quick way that you can see whether or not you're negative. If the tests are positive, it's really just a screening.
These tests weren't designed with just the holidays in mind either.
And that's kind of the instructions from the federal government. I mean, they didn't give them to us in anticipation of the holidays. They are providing them to our communities as long as we are facing different COVID variants.
As we continue to navigate the pandemic, the health center tells us they hope this will serve as an additional layer of protection. In Pittsburgh, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Well, these at-home tests are not a substitute for lab testing if mandated by your employer. Well, the search is on to replace outgoing Pitt State President Dr. Steve Scott. He announced earlier this year that he was stepping down from the position in June of 2022 after 13 years on the job. The university announced it is accepting applications for Scott's replacement. They describe the university's next leader as an entrepreneurial, enterprising, empowering presence. Hunters in Missouri killed 5 elk in the second year of hunting of the animal in the state, 3 with firearms and 2 during the archery portion of the hunting season. The Missouri Department of Conservation says the total matched the 5 elk taken in 2020. This year, the firearms elk hunting period was December 11th through the 19th, and the archery portion ran October 16th through the 24th. 5 hunters were chosen for elk permits through a random drawing. The Conservation Department says elk are native to Missouri, but were hunted to extinction in the state in the late 1800s. Elk have been restored through years of efforts to reintroduce the animals. Your DNA could actually determine whether or not you take your coffee black. A recent study in the journal Nature's Scientific reports people born with a quicker caffeine metabolism prefer black coffee, and that could mean that it's not so much like they like the bitter taste, but instead want strong coffee because of its higher caffeine content. The same people tend to prefer dark chocolate, possibly for the same reason. In the study, subjects who have a genetic marker associated with a higher sensitivity to caffeine were more likely to add cream and sugar. Researchers hope the study will further their understanding of the health benefits associated with both coffee and dark chocolate.
I defer to you, Mom. You have your coffee cup in front of you.
And then my extra caffeine. Because I don't like dark coffee, like black coffee. I've got to have a lot of additives, so it doesn't have as much caffeine apparently, and I need more.
I do the exact opposite. I put nothing in my coffee, but I didn't take up drinking coffee until probably about 8 to 10 years ago. So, like, I'm a newbie, and I don't put anything in my iced tea. I was born and raised on iced tea.
Sweet tea?
No. Oh, no. No, 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 no.
You're not truly from the South,
No,
are you?
no, I am not from the South. You are correct. I spent my formidable years in Texas. That is not the South.
I didn't get sweet tea until I was in college. It was new to me there. And I grew up in Western Kansas. It was all regular tea,
Right.
blah, blah, you know, not sweet at all.
But I think that's why I don't
And
put
then-
anything in my coffee is.
But I didn't enjoy it. And then one time I had a McDonald's sweet tea and the world changed.
The world changed?
The world changed.
You know what we should do? We should do a McDonald's story here later then.
Maybe so.
Deep teas.
Now I brew my own sweet tea, so there we go.
Shout out to the Glow Cloud making its presence felt here as we are now 8 minutes past sunrise on this Wednesday morning. 29 degrees is where we stand over Joplin, so it is definitely a winter coat morning, ranging anywhere from 22 in Sedan on the far left-hand side of your screen. We've been able to push some 33s every now and then. It looks like Cassville and Parsons and Neodesha are 3 communities that are right at the 32-degree mark, but things will drastically change as the wind slowly progresses from the south as it is in the Wichita area. And as it makes its way toward us, we'll have a nice little warm-up. That being said, wind chills when you step outside still for the most part in the mid-20s. Look at Fort Scott. Whoo, dropping down to 19 degrees as far as what it feels like up to the north. Skywatch Storm Tracker, beautiful for us and the entire Midwest. A little bit cooler with the jet stream bringing in those arrows straight out of the upper plains, but eventually after that ridge moves over us, well, we just begin some abnormally warm winter temps. Mid-50s today, that's a good 6 to 8 degrees above normal. And then by the time we get to the Christmas weekend, we're talking about 60s Thursday, 70s on Friday, and a Christmas day, 66 with partly sunny skies. I also think the big difference are those overnight lows. Look down at the bottom. For the past 3 mornings, we've been talking about having to scrape your windshield. Well, that's going to be a thing of the distant past. Even Saturday and Sunday, even though we see a 32, that's not going to be too bad. We may be able to wrap up 2021 without dropping down to freezing once again. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Shoe sale going on now. We have over
KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll discussing better late than never. I want you to meet Philip Azell. He's from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and he just graduated with a degree in biology. Well, we've got a lot of graduates, but that's Philip. You see, he started classes back in 1971. Just got diverted. Started classes when Richard Nixon was president. Well, then he left school to become a photographer. After 20 years of doing that, he ran a sports supply company for 20 years, then on to real estate, started a family along the way. That's his daughter. But getting his college degree was one box that remained unchecked. Now he's a 68-year-old biology major and graduate. Our question for you this morning is, what would you like to check off the list before it's all said and done? And this is interesting because earlier, building project, you just got something that you wanted to construct yourself. That was our early leader, but now 56% of you say travel is the most important. Appreciate all the engagement. Take part each and every morning. Connect to us via our Facebook page or go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. A teenager from Eden Prairie, Minnesota, hailed as a hero. Her name is Sydney Raley. She rushed to the aid of one of her customers at the McDonald's in town. Eva Anderson caught up with her.
A Saturday shift started out pretty standard.
Yeah, you know, like the standard in and out rush, lunch rush, people, like the line was completely packed.
15-year-old Sydney Raley from Edina has worked at McDonald's since summer, taking on a number of roles.
Sometimes I'll actually be taking people's orders, sometimes I'm mixing drinks, sometimes I'm handing food out the windows.
Sometimes she's saving lives.
I noticed that she was coughing profusely. I could tell, like, oh crap, she's choking.
Then the fast food worker thought fast.
I jumped out the window of the drive-thru and I got her out of the car, told her daughter to call 911.
She called in a bystander to help, and together they successfully performed the Heimlich maneuver. It's training Sydney had 4 years ago, but one she was able to expertly recall.
She remembered all of the training.
I always tell her she has a gift because she's autistic and she can remember anything, do anything. It's crazy.
Impressing her parents.
We're really proud of her.
And the local police.
We could use more of her in this world.
Who rewarded her for a good deed done.
They gave me $100. It's insane.
But better than the monetary reward is what Sydney learned about herself.
Feel as though I'm actually capable of contributing to society and actually capable of making a difference.
Because Sydney's standard of service is higher than most. Her store can now claim billions served.
You feel like a hero.
And one life saved.
Be back with our consumer news right after this.
You would think skipping takeout and grocery shopping instead would save you money. Well, think again. New numbers from the Consumer Price Index back up why you may be feeling some sticker shock at the grocery store. Elle Thomas spoke to some shoppers about how they're coping with the high cost of food.
You may have noticed you're spending more to eat, and you're not wrong. Food in general is more expensive than it's been in decades.
So we got bananas, broccoli, milk.
Whether you're dining in or eating out,
can't forget the napkins.
This year, it's going to cost you.
So that's not a lot of food for $34.
In general, food is more expensive than it's been in decades. Over the last 12 months, prices at restaurants have gone up 5.8%. At the grocery stores, it's even higher, a 6.4% increase in just 1 year. Elisa only grabbed a few things from the store today.
$34 for one bag of groceries.
But it wasn't cheap.
That's not bad.
This chart from Bloomberg puts the spike into perspective. Prices surging for almost every major food group. Experts say it all goes back to the pandemic-prompted supply chain issues. As grocers deal with higher costs for commodities, labor, and transportation, so do you. Based on current projections, the price hikes aren't going away anytime soon and are likely here to stay. But for shoppers like Debbie,
over here they had LaCroix for $2.
that just means it's time to budget.
I'm not happy, but what can I do? I just have to adjust and calm down and budget. We do a budget every month, and so I allocate how much I need to spend.
It's not just food. Goods and services are costing more too, with consumer price inflation hitting a 39-year high.
Wall Street ended a 3-day losing streak despite continued uncertainty over the Omicron variant. The Dow rose 560 points. The Nasdaq gained 360 and the S&P 500 was up 81. At-home COVID tests have unfortunately become one of this holiday season's most in-demand items. Some pharmacies are now restricting the number that customers can buy. Walgreens has set a limit of its 4 test kits, while CVS will allow people to buy up to 6 of them at once. Both companies said the rule applies to online and in-person sales. Kellogg's strike ended yesterday. The company said workers voted to ratify a new contract with the cereal maker. Some 1,400 employees walked off the job in early October. Their union said the new agreement provides cost of living adjustments and a raise, but does not include any concessions. They will return to work after the upcoming holiday weekend. We'll be right back with more after this, but first let's look at the market prices before the opening bell.
After you've been...
Scarlett Johansson's singing porcupine character in the movie Sing 2 duets with U2's Bono. We've got an animated musical sequel on our hands, and our man Rick Damigella has the lowdown.
I've been shaking, I love it when you go crazy. You take all my what are you doing? Baby, there's nothing holding me back.
The singing animals are back in Sing 2.
Playback. This is the entertainment capital of the world.
Matthew McConaughey reprises his role as koala impresario Buster Moon.
Oh, he's the eternal optimist. Oh, he's Captain Hustler. Oh, he's resilient. He's getting back up. He writes checks that he doesn't know if he can cash. Oh, he's an underdog.
Sing 2 features a global singing superstar among its voice cast.
Don't you miss the music? You just need to play again.
No, I can't. I haven't even heard one of my songs in over 15 years. And for good reason.
U2 singer Bono not only voiced Clay Calloway, but helped find his character's story.
This is the story of a lion who's lost his roar. And I said, well, grief can either open up a voice, as it did with me when I was a kid, or it can shut things down if you lose your muse, if you lose your reason to sing.
Scarlett Johansson's punk porcupine duets with Bono's lion, but didn't have to sing with him in person.
I didn't have the same kind of, I think, like, nervous kind of excitement as I would have had if I was recording live with Bono. I probably would have been paralyzed then. And so I just sort of sang it.
But I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Great story about Bono. Keyshawn Johnson, former NFL wide receiver, him and his wife were on vacation and they ran into Brad Pitt, and Keyshawn and Brad Pitt happened to be friends, and they were hanging out with Brad Pitt's group of friends, and Keyshawn met a gentleman that said he was from Ireland and he was a musician. And Keyshawn told him, entertainment business is hard. Keep up the good work, keep fighting the good fight. You can make something of yourself. Brad Pitt finally pulled Keyshawn Johnson aside and said, do you know who that dude is? He goes by the name of Bono. Live look over 7th and Rangeline, where we currently sit at a chilly 29 degrees, but this will be the last time that we talk about a morning with sub-freezing temperatures. Now we've got Neodesha and Parsons joining Monette and Cassville up to 32 degrees, 29 as well in Pittsburgh. And we've got Nevada right on the mark right there. They're at 29. One thing I do want to point out is our relative humidity, while not too bad right now, is going to plummet through the afternoon. So we'll have an uptick in the south wind and also humidity dropping around 30%. So we will talk about elevated fire concerns on this Wednesday. But then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, just sit back and enjoy great temps headed into the Christmas weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are queuing up in long lines for a COVID test ahead of the Christmas holiday. The Omicron variant is now the dominant strain nationwide, detected in 49 states, spreading faster than any previous strain by far. The Center for Disease Control expects a record number of new cases as soon as January, likely fueled by Omicron and people gathering for the holidays. President Biden plans to confront this COVID surge with a $500 million rapid home COVID test. His administration is setting up a website where Americans can order tests and have them mailed to their homes free of charge in January. The president also pledged to increase support for hospitals and expand the availability of testing sites and vaccines. U.S. health officials say 2021 will likely surpass last year's record number of deaths by at least 15,000. CDC report also finds 2020 was more deadly than previously reported, with more than 3.3 million U.S. deaths. COVID-19 was the nation's number 3 cause of death, behind heart disease and cancer. Experts say the 2021 total will also be affected by the nation's drug overdose epidemic that for the first time ever will surpass 100,000 deaths in a calendar year. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Here's where we stand now, with temperatures ranging from the high 20s to the low 30s. And here's where we'll end up this afternoon, about a 30-degree warm-up. We'll see anything from 55 to 57. Now, overnight, we'll see the clouds build just a little bit, but that helps us with our overnight temperatures avoid the freezing mark.
All right. Well, thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning.
We will be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.